Lena Harper stood in the dimly lit gas station parking lot, staring at the 8 crumpled dollars in her hand. It was her last $8, her daughter Zoe's breakfast money for the next day. Then she heard it, a man gasping desperately for air. A massive Hell's Angel biker had collapsed beside his motorcycle, clutching his chest, his face drained of color, turning a frightening gray. He was dying right there on the cold pavement, and no one else was around to help. "Don't get involved," the gas station attendant shouted from the doorway. "Those guys are nothing but trouble." Lena looked at the dying man, then at her $8. She thought of her little girl Zoe waking up hungry, yet something deeper tugged at her heart. She simply could not walk away. She ran inside, used her last $8 to buy aspirin and water, and knelt beside him. Without knowing who he was, she saved his life. What Lena did not know was that this single act of compassion would change everything. Because the next morning, 100 motorcycles thundered onto her street. Let me take you back to the morning before that gas station moment, before everything changed. Lena's alarm went off early, the way it always did. She dragged herself out of bed in the tiny apartment she shared with her 6-year-old daughter Zoe. The place was small and run down, in a neighborhood that had seen better days. But it was home. She walked into the kitchen and opened the cabinet. One box of cereal, almost empty. Half a carton of milk in the fridge. She poured the last bit into Zoe's bowl and made it stretch as far as it would go. Zoe came padding out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Mommy." "Morning, baby." Lena kissed the top of her head and set the bowl on the table. She did not make one for herself. There was not enough. This was life now, counting every dollar, stretching every meal, praying nothing unexpected happened, because there was no cushion, no safety net, nothing to fall back on. Lena worked 2 jobs, mornings at the laundromat folding strangers' clothes for $11 an hour, evenings at a diner serving truckers and late-night crowds, hustling for tips that sometimes added up to $20, sometimes less. Her car had broken down 3 weeks earlier. She could not afford to fix it, so now she walked everywhere, miles to work, miles home, in worn-out sneakers with a hole in the left sole. And the bills kept coming. Rent was due soon. She was $150 short. The landlord had already threatened eviction once. Zoe's asthma inhaler needed refilling. $60 she did not have. The electricity bill had an overdue notice taped to the fridge, but Lena did not complain. She had learned long ago that complaining did not pay the bills. Her grandmother had raised her with one simple rule: kindness costs nothing, baby, and sometimes it's all we've got to give. So Lena smiled at her coworkers, even when exhaustion weighed her down. She asked customers how their day was going, even when her feet ached so badly she could barely stand. She kept a little journal by her bed where she wrote 3 things she was grateful for every night, no matter how hard the day had been. One day started like every other. She walked Zoe to the neighbor's apartment before school, then headed to the laundromat. She folded clothes for 8 hours, her mind on autopilot. Jeans, towels, sheets, over and over. After her shift, she walked to the diner. She liked to arrive early, grab a coffee, sit in the back booth, and just breathe for a few minutes. Doris, her coworker, a kind older woman who had worked at the diner for 20 years, slid into the booth across from her. "You look tired, honey." "I'm always tired," Lena said with a small smile. "You work yourself to death for that little girl." "She's worth it," Doris patted her hand. "I know she is, but you've got to take care of yourself too. You hear me?" Lena nodded, but they both knew she did not have that luxury. Her evening shift was busy. Truckers, a few families, some teenagers grabbing late-night fries. She smiled, took orders, refilled coffee cups, and kept moving. When her shift ended, her tips added up to $23. She sat in the back room counting the cash on the table. 23 in tips, plus what she had left from the day before. It totaled $347. She needed to keep enough for the bus to work the next day. 47. That left her with 31. She tucked 23 away for rent. That left $8 for Zoe's breakfast and maybe something small for dinner the next night. $8. She folded the bills carefully and put them in her pocket. Then she started the 2-mile walk home. The streets were quiet. Lena was exhausted, but she kept her head up and kept moving. She decided to cut through the gas station parking lot on her way. There was a restroom there, and she needed to stop. That was when everything changed. That was when she heard the man gasping for air. And in that moment, Lena Harper had a choice to make. A choice that would cost her everything she had. A choice that would save a life. A choice that would reveal who she really was when no one was watching. She had no idea that this one decision would change her life forever. Lena pushed open the gas station restroom door and stepped back outside into the parking lot. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered and buzzed. The place was almost empty. That was when she saw him. A man, massive, probably 6'3", with a thick gray beard and arms covered in tattoos. He leaned against a chrome motorcycle under one of the lights. He wore a black leather vest with patches all over it. Hell's Angels. Even from a distance, Lena could see the skull logo. She had heard stories about guys like him. Everyone had. Dangerous criminals. Stay away. She started walking toward the street, minding her own business. Then the man stumbled. His hand shot to his chest, his face twisted in pain. He dropped to one knee, gasping. Lena stopped. The man collapsed onto the pavement, flat on his back. His breathing came in short, desperate bursts. His lips were turning blue. She stood there, frozen. Every instinct screamed at her to keep walking. This was not her problem. She had Zoe to think about. She had enough trouble in her own life. But then she heard it. A sound that made her blood run cold. The man was not breathing anymore. His chest had stopped moving. "Hey!" Lena shouted toward the gas station. "Hey, someone call 911. The attendant, a white guy in his 30s, stepped outside with a cigarette in his hand. He looked at the man on the ground, then at Lena. "Lady, you crazy? That's a Hell's Angel. Leave him alone. He's probably high on something." "He's having a heart attack," Lena said, her voice rising. The attendant shrugged. "Not our problem. Those guys are nothing but trouble. Trust me, you don't want to get involved." An older man, maybe 60, white, wearing a trucker hat, walked out of the store with a bag of chips. He saw the scene and shook his head. He walked over to Lena and grabbed her arm gently. "Miss, listen to me. Don't get involved. People like that, they're dangerous. You've got a kid to think about, don't you?" "I can tell. Just walk away." Lena pulled her arm back. "A man is dying." The trucker shook his head again, muttered something under his breath, and walked to his car. He drove off without looking back. Lena stood there alone in the parking lot. The attendant went back inside, leaving her with the dying man. She looked down at him. His chest was not moving. His face was gray. She thought about her grandmother. Years ago, her grandmother had collapsed on a city sidewalk from a stroke. People had walked past her. No one stopped. By the time someone finally called for help, it was too late. Lena had been 12 years old when she got that phone call. She had never forgotten it. She dropped to her knees beside the man. Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes fluttered open, just barely. He tried to speak, but only a wheeze came out. "Heart meds. Forgot." Lena pulled out her phone. 1 bar of signal, 10% battery. She dialed 911. The call dropped. Damn it. She stood up and ran toward the gas station. She burst through the door. "Call an ambulance right now. He's dying out there." The attendant rolled his eyes but picked up the phone behind the counter. Lena did not wait. She scanned the shelves, grabbed a bottle of aspirin and a bottle of water. She ran to the counter and slammed them down. "How much?" $6.50. She pulled the $8 from her pocket, Zoe's breakfast money, and handed it over. The attendant gave her $1.50 in change. She did not wait for a receipt. She ran back outside. The man was still on the ground, barely conscious. Lena twisted the cap off the aspirin bottle, shook 2 tablets into her hand, opened the water, and knelt beside him. Hey, look at me. I need you to chew these. Can you do that?" He opened his mouth weakly. She placed the tablets on his tongue. "Chew. Come on." He chewed slowly, wincing. She held the water bottle to his lips, and he took a small sip. "Help is coming," she said, her hand on his shoulder. "You're going to be okay. Just stay with me." His hand reached up and grabbed hers. His grip was weak, but it was there. "What's your name?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. Lena Harper." "Lena," he coughed. You saved my life." "Not yet, but I'm trying." In the distance, sirens wailed. They were getting closer. Then, out of nowhere, another motorcycle roared into the parking lot. A younger guy, maybe 30, also wearing a vest, jumped off and ran over. Knox! Oh my God, Knox! He dropped to his knees on the other side of the man. He looked at Lena, his eyes wide with shock. You helped him? He needed help, Lena said simply. The younger guy stared at her like she had just done something impossible. Most people cross the street when they see us. Lena did not respond. She just kept her hand on Knox's shoulder until the ambulance pulled into the lot. The paramedics rushed over with a stretcher and equipment. One of them looked at Lena. Did you give him aspirin? Yes, 2 tablets a few minutes ago. The paramedic nodded. Smart move. You probably just saved his life. They loaded Knox onto the stretcher. He reached out and grabbed Lena's wrist one more time, his eyes locked onto hers. Tell them Knox sent you. She had no idea what that meant. The younger guy stood up as the ambulance doors closed. He walked over to Lena, pulled a business card from his wallet, and handed it to her. It was plain white with just a phone number and a small logo, a crown with wings. My name's Vance, he said. Knox is going to want to thank you. Please call this number tomorrow. Lena took the card, her hands shaking. She looked at the logo, then back at Vance. Who is he? Vance smiled, but there was something heavy in his expression. Someone important. Someone who doesn't forget kindness. The ambulance pulled away, sirens blaring. The gas station attendant stood in the doorway, arms crossed, shaking his head. Lena stood alone in the parking lot with $1.50 in her pocket and no idea what she had just done. She walked home in the dark, replaying everything. The attendant's words echoed in her mind. Those guys are nothing but trouble. But all she had seen was a man who needed help. Had she made a mistake? She did not know yet, but she was about to find out. The paramedics worked fast. One placed an oxygen mask over Knox's face, while the other checked his vitals. Lena stood back, her hands still trembling from the adrenaline. Vance paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair. He looked terrified. Is he going to be okay? He asked the paramedics. We got him stable, one of them said. But if this lady hadn't given him aspirin when she did, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. Vance turned to Lena. His eyes were red. You don't understand. Knox, he's not just anybody. He's everything to us. Lena did not know what to say. I just did what anyone would do. No. Vance shook his head firmly. Most people would have walked away, especially from someone who looks like him. The paramedics loaded Knox into the ambulance. Before they closed the doors, Knox pulled the oxygen mask down slightly and looked at Lena. Thank you, he mouthed. She nodded. The ambulance doors closed and the vehicle pulled away into the night. Vance stood there for a moment, watching it disappear. Then he turned back to Lena. You got kids? The question caught her off guard. Yeah, a daughter, Zoe. She's 6. What's your situation? Are you working? Lena hesitated. She did not know this man, but something about the way he asked, gentle, genuine, made her answer. 2 jobs. We're managing. Vance looked down at her shoes, the hole in the left sole, her worn jeans, the exhaustion written all over her face. Yeah, he said quietly. I bet. He pulled out his wallet. It was thick with cash. He started counting bills. Let me give you something for the aspirin, for your time, for what you did. Lena stepped back. No, please. I said no. Her voice was firm. I didn't do it for money. Vance stopped. He stared at her for a long moment. Then why? Because he needed help. That's it. Vance slowly put his wallet away. He studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, the same one he had shown her before. Plain white, phone number, crown with wings logo. Knox is going to want to thank you himself, Vance said. Tomorrow afternoon, please call this number. Lena took the card, planning to throw it away the moment she got home. I'll think about it. Please, Vance said again. There was something almost desperate in his voice. Just call. That's all I'm asking. She nodded, slipping the card into her pocket. Vance got on his motorcycle. Before he rode off, he looked back at her one more time. You're a good person, Lena Harper. Don't ever let anyone tell you differently. Then he was gone. Lena stood alone in the gas station parking lot. The attendant had gone back inside. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Everything felt surreal, like she had just stepped out of a dream. She started walking home, 2 miles in the dark, with $1.50 in her pocket. Her mind raced the entire way. What had just happened? Who was Knox? Why did Vance look at her like she had done something extraordinary? All she had done was help someone. But the way they reacted, it was like no one had ever helped them before. She thought about the attendant's warning. Those guys are nothing but trouble. She thought about the trucker who told her to walk away. Maybe they were right. Maybe she had just made a huge mistake. Maybe tomorrow she would wake up and regret everything. But she could not shake the image of Knox lying on that pavement, his chest not moving, his face turning gray. If she had walked away, he would be dead. That was the truth, and she did not know how to regret saving someone's life. By the time she got home, it was late into the night. Her neighbor, Mrs. Fletcher, an older woman who watched Zoe when Lena worked late, was asleep on the couch with Zoe curled up beside her. Lena gently shook Mrs. Fletcher awake. "I'm home. Thank you so much." Mrs. Fletcher nodded groggily and shuffled out. Lena carefully lifted Zoe and carried her to bed. Zoe stirred slightly. "Mommy." "Shh. Go back to sleep, baby. I love you, Mommy." "I love you too." Lena tucked the blanket around her daughter and kissed her forehead. Then she walked back to the kitchen and sat down at the small table. She pulled the business card out of her pocket and stared at it. The crown with Wings logo glinted under the dim overhead light. She turned it over. Nothing on the back, just a phone number. Who were these people? She looked at the $1.50 sitting on the table. Tomorrow Zoe would wake up and ask for breakfast, and Lena would have to tell her they had crackers and the last banana, nothing else, because she had spent her last $8 on a stranger. She pulled out her journal, a small notebook she kept by the window. Every night, no matter how hard things were, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. It was something her grandmother had taught her. She opened to a blank page and wrote, 1. Zoe is healthy. 2. I helped someone tonight. 3. Tomorrow is a new day. She closed the journal and looked at the business card again. She set it on the nightstand beside her bed. Then she lay down, exhausted, and closed her eyes. She had no idea what the next day would bring. She had no idea that across town in a hospital room, Knox was telling Vance to gather everyone. She had no idea that her name was being spoken in rooms she had never seen, by people she had never met. She had no idea that her life was about to change in ways she could not even imagine. All she knew was that she had done the right thing. And sometimes, that is all you can do, even when it costs you everything. The next morning, Lena's alarm went off early, just like always. She dragged herself out of bed, her body aching from the long day before. She walked into the kitchen and opened the cabinet. 1 banana, a handful of crackers. That was it. She split the banana in half, arranged the crackers on a plate, and poured a glass of water. Zoe came padding out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Mommy. What's for breakfast?" "A special breakfast today, baby." Lena forced a smile. "Banana and crackers, your favorite." Zoe did not complain. She never did. She climbed into her chair and started eating. Lena did not make anything for herself. There was not enough. She sat across from Zoe, watching her eat, trying not to think about how empty the cabinets were, trying not to think about the $8 she had spent the night before. Then came a knock at the door. Lena frowned. It was early. Who would be knocking this early? She opened the door. Mrs. Watkins stood there, her neighbor, a black woman in her 60s who had lived on this street for 30 years. She had her arms crossed and a deep frown on her face. "Lena, baby," Mrs. Watkins said, her voice tight. "We need to talk." "Good morning, Mrs. Watkins. Is everything okay?" Mrs. Watkins stepped closer and lowered her voice. "I heard you helped one of those biker thugs last night, one of those Hell's Angels." Lena's stomach dropped. How did she know? "He was having a heart attack, Mrs. Watkins. I had to." "Child, those Hell's Angels are criminals," Mrs. Watkins cut her off. "Drugs, violence, all kinds of mess. What were you thinking? You got Zoe to think about." "He was a human being who needed help," Lena said, her voice steady but quiet. "That's all I saw." Mrs. Watkins shook her head, disappointment written all over her face. You're too kind for your own good, Lena. That kindness is going to get you hurt one day. Mark my words. She turned and walked back to her apartment, leaving Lena standing in the doorway. Lena closed the door slowly and leaned against it. Her hands were shaking. Had she made a mistake? She looked at Zoe, still eating her crackers, completely unaware of the conversation that had just happened. Lena forced herself to breathe. Finish up, baby. Time to get ready for school. At the laundromat, Lena folded clothes on autopilot. Her mind kept replaying Mrs. Watkins's words. That kindness is going to get you hurt, Doris noticed. She walked over and sat down beside Lena. You okay, honey? You look like you didn't sleep. Lena hesitated, then told her everything. The gas station, the biker, the heart attack. Using her last $8. Doris's eyes went wide. You helped a Hell's Angel. Girl, you're braver than me. Or stupider, Lena muttered. According to Mrs. Watkins. Doris reached over and squeezed her hand. Baby, you did what your heart told you to do. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. But what if she's right? What if I brought trouble into my life? Doris looked her in the eye. You saved a man's life, Lena. That's never the wrong thing to do. Lena wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at her. During her break, she pulled out the business card. She stared at the crown with Wings logo, turning it over in her fingers. She pulled out her phone and typed a text message to the number on the card. Hi, this is Lena Harper. Vance gave me this number. She hit send before she could change her mind. Within seconds, her phone rang. She stared at the screen. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. A minute later, she listened to the message. Lena, it's Vance. Knox wants to meet you today. Can you come to Murphy's Diner on 5th Street this afternoon? It's important, please. Lena's heart pounded. Doris leaned over. What did they say? They want to meet me this afternoon. Then go, Doris said. What's the worst that could happen? Free coffee. Lena tried to smile, but her stomach was in knots. She was off work at 2. She could make it to the diner by 3. But what would people think? What would Mrs. Watkins say if she found out? What if this really was a mistake? As she left the laundromat that afternoon, she noticed something. 2 motorcycles parked across the street. 2 men in vests watching. When she looked at them, they nodded respectfully. Then they rode off. Lena stood on the sidewalk, her heart racing. What had she walked into? And more importantly, could she walk back out? Lena took the bus to 5th Street. Her hands would not stop shaking. As the bus turned the corner, she saw them. Motorcycles. Dozens of them parked in perfect rows outside Murphy's Diner. Chrome gleaming in the afternoon sun. Her stomach dropped. The bus stopped. Lena almost stayed in her seat, but something made her stand up and walk toward that diner. Bikers lined the sidewalk. Big men with tattoos and gray beards. Women too, arms crossed, standing tall, all wearing vests with patches. They were not loud. They were not threatening. They were waiting. As Lena walked past, each one nodded to her. One older man tipped his cap. Lena's heart pounded. What did that mean? She reached the door, took a breath, and walked inside. Every booth and table was filled with bikers. The diner was dead silent. Every single person turned and looked at her. Vance appeared from the back, smiling. Lena, thank you for coming. Knox is waiting. As they walked through the diner, something incredible happened. The bikers stood up, one by one. As she passed, they rose to their feet, like a wave moving through the room. Lena had no idea what it meant, but it felt sacred. Vance led her to a corner booth. Knox sat there looking better than the night before. When he saw her, he stood slowly, wincing. Lena Harper, please sit. She slid into the booth. Knox studied her. How are you feeling? I'm fine. How are you? Doctor said if you hadn't acted fast, I'd be dead. Heart attack. I'm just glad you're okay. Knox leaned forward. Vance told me everything. You wouldn't take money. You've got a daughter, 2 jobs. You used your last $8 to save my life. Lena shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't about money. I know, that's why I wanted to meet you. He pulled out a photograph and slid it across the table. A younger Knox stood beside a woman. Between them was a little girl, maybe 7, with bright eyes and a huge smile. That's my daughter, Knox said, quietly. Her name was Ivy. Was? Leukemia. She was 7. We couldn't afford treatments fast enough. By the time we got the money, it was too late. Lena's throat tightened. I'm so sorry. Knox's jaw tightened. After she died, I made a promise. Anyone who shows real kindness, especially when they've got nothing, I help them. It's what Ivy would have wanted. Lena did not know what to say. Knox looked her in the eye. Tomorrow morning, something's going to happen. Don't be scared. Just trust me. What do you mean? Knox smiled. You'll see. He stood, shook her hand, left cash on the table, and walked out with Vance. Lena sat alone, surrounded by silent bikers, completely lost. An older biker leaned over. You did good, miss. Real good. She had no idea what he meant. Back on Lena's street, the neighborhood buzzed with talk. Mrs. Watkins stood on her porch with Mr. Vargas, a man in his 40s from 3 doors down. That girl Lena is mixed up with those bikers now, Mrs. Watkins said. I told her no good would come of it. Mr. Vargas frowned. Hell's angels on our street? We got to do something. A young mother overheard, I'm keeping my kids inside tomorrow. Word spread fast. By dinner time, the whole block was on edge. Parents warned their children. Curtains stayed drawn. Doors stayed locked. No one knew what was coming, but everyone was afraid. And Lena, she rode the bus home with a pit in her stomach, wondering if she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next morning, Lena woke to a sound like thunder, deep, rumbling, shaking the windows. Engines. She rushed to the window and looked out. Her street was lined with motorcycles, hundreds of them. Chrome gleaming black vests, bikers standing in perfect formation. Oh my God, she whispered. Zoe ran in. Mommy, why are there so many motorcycles? Lena had no answer. She threw on clothes and rushed outside with Zoe clinging to her hand. The entire neighborhood had come out, but they were not curious. They were terrified. Windows slammed shut, doors locked, parents pulled children inside. Mrs. Watkins stood on her porch with her phone. Yes, police. There's a gang on our street. Mr. Vargas ran toward Lena, face red with anger. Lena, what did you do? Why are they here? You brought a gang to our street. Our kids live here. Other neighbors gathered, voices rising. What were you thinking? I told you, Mrs. Watkins shouted. I warned you. The crowd pressed closer, angry faces, pointing fingers. Zoe started crying. Mommy, I'm scared. Lena pulled her close, hands shaking. It's okay, baby. But she did not know if it was. Vance stepped forward, hands raised. Folks, we're not here to cause trouble. Then why are you here, mister? Mr. Vargas shouted. We're here to help one of your own. Lena saved a life 2 nights ago. Now we're here to save hers. Silence. A trailer truck pulled up. Bikers started unloading boxes. Vance turned to the crowd. My name is Vance. I'm a volunteer with Ivy's Legacy, a non-profit that helps struggling families. Non-profit? Someone muttered, skeptical. Knox, the man Lena saved, is our founder. He started Ivy's Legacy after his daughter died of leukemia. We've helped over 3,000 families in 20 years. We raise money, build homes, and pay medical bills. Mr. Vargas's face changed. Wait, Ivy's Legacy? You helped my cousin in Detroit, Miguel Vargas, veteran with PTSD. You paid for his therapy. Vance nodded. A woman gasped. You paid for my son's heart surgery 2 years ago. Another voice. You saved my grandmother's house from foreclosure. The atmosphere shifted. Fear turned to understanding. Mrs. Watkins' hand covered her mouth. Lord, we judged you all wrong. Knox stepped out of the truck, moving slowly. The crowd parted as he walked toward Lena. He turned to face the neighbors. I get it, Knox said. You saw the jackets, the bikes, the tattoos. You got scared. That's human. He pointed to Lena. But this woman didn't see any of that. She saw a man dying and used her last $8, her daughter's breakfast money, to save my life. Complete silence. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care. She just saw a human being who needed help. That's the world I'm trying to build, where people see people, not stereotypes. Mr. Bennett, an elderly black man who had lived here 40 years, stepped forward with wet eyes. I judged you by your jacket, not your heart. I was wrong. I'm sorry. He extended his hand. Knox shook it. We all make mistakes, sir. One by one, neighbors approached, apologizing, shaking hands. Mr. Vargas walked to Lena. I'm sorry, I yelled. You were braver than all of us. Lena could not speak. Knox turned to her. You gave me a second chance. Let me give you one. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $25,000. Lena stared, unable to process it. For rent, medical bills, whatever you need, Knox said. There was more. A letter on official letterhead. Ivy's legacy offered her the position of Community Outreach Coordinator. Salary $52,000 a year. Full benefits. Health insurance. Start in 2 weeks. Lena's knees buckled. She dropped to the ground, sobbing. Zoe knelt beside her. Mommy, why are you crying? Happy tears, baby. The neighbors erupted in applause. Some cried too. Engines revved. A thunderous celebration echoed down the street. Mrs. Watkins pulled Lena into a hug. Baby, you showed us how to be better. I'm so sorry. Knox knelt beside Lena, wincing. One more thing. He pulled out a car key. We bought your car from Impound, fully repaired. It's around the corner. Lena looked up, face streaked with tears. Why? Why all this? Knox's eyes glistened. 20 years ago, my daughter died because we didn't have enough money. I swore I'd never let that happen to another family. You saved my life with your last dollars. Didn't hesitate. Didn't ask for anything. That's who the world needs. That's who I need. I'm nobody special. You're wrong. You're exactly who we've been looking for. Vance stepped forward. There's more. Come. He led her to the trailer. Inside, furniture, a bed for Zoe, groceries, toys, school supplies, clothes. Lena laughed through tears, disbelief and joy mixing. This is too much. It's not enough, Knox said, but it's a start. Bikers began unloading. The neighbors, terrified an hour ago, stepped forward to help. Mr. Vargas grabbed a box. Where do you want this? Mrs. Watkins directed traffic. Careful with that bed. The young mother who had locked her kids inside now had them helping carry toys. The entire street came together. Fear and prejudice transformed into community and love. Knox stood beside Lena. Tomorrow we start planning the community center right here. Community center? Clark House named after you. Lena shook her head, crying. You can't. I can. And I am. Zoe tugged her hand. Mommy, they brought me a bike. Lena looked at her daughter's face. Pure joy, no fear. And something inside her broke open. For the first time in years, she felt real hope. Thank you, she whispered to Knox. You already thanked me, Knox said. You saw me. Not the vest, not the tattoos, just me, that's all I needed. By noon, Lena's apartment looked like a completely different place. The old sagging couch was gone, replaced by a sturdy new one with soft cushions. The wobbly kitchen table was now a solid wooden dining set with 4 matching chairs. Zoe's mattress on the floor was replaced by a real bed with a frame, fresh sheets, and pillows. Bikers moved furniture in while neighbors helped unpack boxes. Mr. Vargas assembled Zoe's new bed. Mrs. Watkins organized the kitchen cabinets with new plates and glasses. Zoe ran from room to room, eyes wide with wonder. Mommy, look, I have a real desk and books and toys. Lena stood in the middle of it all, overwhelmed. Knox sat down on the new couch and patted the spot beside him. Sit. Let's talk. Lena sat, still in shock. I want to explain the job, Knox said. What we'd need from you. I'll do anything, Lena said. I just want to help. Knox smiled. We get hundreds of requests every month. Single moms, veterans, families who can't afford medical care. I need someone who understands struggle, who can look someone in the eye and see their heart. That's you. I know. That's why you're hired. He pulled out a folder with blueprints inside. But there's more. I want to open a community center right here in this neighborhood. Lena's eyes widened as she looked at the drawings. Here? Why not? This is where people need it most. Job training, food bank, after-school programs for kids like Zoe, a medical clinic. That's incredible. Knox pointed to the top of the blueprint. 2 words. Harper House. We're naming it after you. Lena shook her head. You can't do that. I can. And I am. Your job is to find people who need help, Knox continued. You'll visit families, review applications, connect them with resources. Everything you went through, that pain you felt trying to make ends meet, that's your superpower now because you know exactly what they're going through. Lena nodded, wiping her eyes. When do I start? In 2 weeks. That gives you time to quit your other jobs and settle in. Knox pulled out a benefits packet. Health insurance starts on day 1. Covers everything, including Zoe's asthma medication. Completely. Lena's breath caught. Completely. Completely. No copays, no deductibles. You'll never have to choose between her inhaler and groceries again. She broke down, sobbing. Knox waited patiently until she could breathe again. There's one more thing, he said. He pulled out a vest. Not a Hell's Angel vest, but a volunteer vest for Ivy's legacy. The crown, with wings embroidered on the back. You're one of us now. Family. Lena took the vest with shaking hands. She put it on and looked in the mirror hanging on the wall. She barely recognized herself, but in a good way. Your first job, Knox said. Find someone in this neighborhood who needs help. Use those same instincts that saved me. Then we'll help them together. Lena thought for only a second. Mrs. Sullivan, 3 doors down. She's 80. Can't afford her heart medication. I've seen her cutting pills in half to make them last. Knox smiled. Then let's go. They walked to Mrs. Sullivan's apartment. Lena, Knox, and Vance. Lena knocked. Mrs. Sullivan opened the door slowly, surprised to see people on her doorstep. Lena, what's going on, dear? Mrs. Sullivan, I'd like you to meet some friends. We're here to help. They sat in Mrs. Sullivan's small living room. Knox explained Ivy's legacy while the elderly woman listened, tears forming in her eyes. Ma'am, what do you need most right now? Knox asked. Mrs. Sullivan's voice shook. My heart medication. I can't afford it anymore. I've been cutting the pills in half, but I'm almost out. Knox pulled out his phone and made a call. We'll have your prescription filled and delivered today. Full 3-month supply. No cost to you. Mrs. Sullivan grabbed Lena's hand. You did this for me? We did this, Lena said. Together. Mrs. Sullivan wept. As they left, Lena looked back at the elderly woman's grateful face. This is the best job I'll ever have, she said to Knox. I know, Knox replied, because you understand what it means to need help. And now, you get to be the person who shows up. They walked back to Lena's apartment where the celebration continued. Neighbors laughed. Bikers shared stories. Zoe played with her new toys. And for the first time in years, Lena Harper did not worry about tomorrow because tomorrow was going to be okay. Actually, it was going to be better than okay. It was going to be beautiful. 6 months later, everything had changed. But the change did not happen overnight, and it did not happen smoothly. The day after the bikers came, someone posted a video online. Lena standing in her street surrounded by 100 Hell's Angels motorcycles. The footage went viral. The comments came fast. She's glorifying gang culture. Hell's Angels are criminals. Don't be fooled. This is staged. No way. This is real. Lena saw them. Every single one. They hurt. Doris called her. Ignore them, honey. They don't know the truth. But the negative comments kept coming for weeks. Then something shifted. Families Ivy's legacy had helped started sharing their own stories, videos, posts, testimonials. A veteran in Ohio. They gave me housing when I had nothing. A single mother in Pennsylvania. They paid for my daughter's surgery. She's alive because of them. An elderly man in Michigan. They saved my home. The comments changed. I was wrong about bikers. This is what real charity looks like. Faith in humanity restored. Within a month, the hashtag Ivy's Legacy was trending. In the first month, Lena sat at her new desk in the Ivy's Legacy office. A nameplate in front of her read, Lena Harper, Community Outreach Coordinator. She reviewed applications, made phone calls, visited families. Zoe thrived in her new school. Her inhaler sat on the counter, always full, always accessible. No more cutting corners. No more fear. In the second month, a vacant lot in Lena's neighborhood became a construction site. Harper House was rising from the ground. At the groundbreaking ceremony, Lena stood with a shovel surrounded by bikers and neighbors. Local news cameras filmed everything. The reporter asked, "How does it feel to have a community center named after you?" Lena smiled. "It's not about me. It's about what happens when people choose kindness over fear." In the third month, Lena met Kai, a young black veteran, 32 years old, living in his car. She sat with him in a coffee shop. "Tell me what you need." a place to sleep, a job, a reason to keep going. Within a week, Ivy's legacy placed him in transitional housing and enrolled him in a job training program. 3 months later, Kai worked at a local factory. He had his own apartment, a paycheck. Hope. He came back to thank Lena, shaking her hand with tears in his eyes. "You gave me a second chance." "No," Lena said. "You gave yourself a second chance. I just opened the door." In the 4th month, Harper House opened. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew hundreds of people. Lena and Zoe cut the ribbon together, both laughing. Inside, the building buzzed with life. A job training center, a food bank, an after-school program, a medical clinic offering free checkups. On opening day, 43 people came through the doors seeking help. All 43 left with something they needed. In the 5th month, testimonials poured in. Rosa, a Latina mother of 3. "Ivy's legacy paid for my daughter's surgery. Without them, I would have lost her." Mr. Bennett, the elderly man who had apologized to Knox on Lena's street. "They paid my property taxes. I get to keep my home because of them." A teenage girl, 16, with dreams of college. "The after-school program helped me get a scholarship. I'm going to study medicine." In the 6th month, Lena now led a team of 5 coordinators, each one a person she had helped first, now paying it forward. Ivy's legacy expanded to 3 neighboring towns. Each location was modeled after Harper House. Knox recovered fully. He spent his days visiting the centers, meeting families, and shaking hands. He told Lena one afternoon, "You know what Ivy would say if she could see this?" "What?" "She'd say, 'Daddy, you did good.'" Documentary filmmakers came to interview Lena. They wanted to tell her story. She sat in front of the camera and said something simple. "A year ago, I had $8 and a choice. Help a stranger or feed my daughter breakfast. I chose to help, and that choice saved both of us." The short film premiered online. Within a week, 5 million views. One day, Lena returned to the gas station where it all started. She walked inside and asked the manager for permission to place a small plaque on the wall outside. He agreed. The plaque read, "Here, a small act of kindness changed everything. Ivy's legacy." The gas station attendant, the one who told her to leave Knox alone, saw her and walked over. "I remember you," he said quietly. "I told you not to help him." Lena nodded. "I was wrong," he said. "I've been following your story, what you built. I'm sorry." Lena smiled. "We all learn. That's what matters." She walked out of that gas station for the 2nd time. But this time, everything was different. This time, she was not alone. She had a family now, a community, a purpose. And it all started with $8 and a choice. 1 year after that night at the gas station, Harper House hosted an anniversary celebration. The building overflowed with people, families who had been helped, bikers who had volunteered, neighbors who had learned to see past their prejudices. Balloons hung from the ceiling. A banner stretched across the wall. 1 year of kindness. Lena stood at a small podium looking out at the crowd. Zoe sat in the front row beaming. Lena cleared her throat. "A year ago, I spent my last $8 on a stranger. I didn't know who he was. I didn't care. He needed help. That's it." The room applauded. "I was scared," Lena continued. "People told me I was making a mistake, that I was bringing trouble into my life. And for a moment, I believed them." She looked at Knox, standing in the back with his arms crossed and a proud smile on his face. "But what I learned is this. Kindness is never a mistake, even when it costs you everything, especially then." More applause. Some people wiped their eyes. After the speech, a young woman approached Lena. She was white, early 20s, with nervous eyes. "Hi," the woman said. "My name is Hannah. I don't know if you remember, but you helped my mom 6 months ago. She had cancer. Couldn't afford treatment." Lena searched her memory. "Mrs. Reynolds?" Hannah nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "She's in remission. The doctors said it's a miracle, but it wasn't a miracle. It was you. It was Ivy's legacy." They hugged tightly, both crying. Mrs. Watkins walked over, now a regular volunteer at Harper House. She pulled Lena aside. "Baby, I need to say something." "What is it, Mrs. Watkins?" "I'm sorry for what I said that morning, for judging you, for judging them." She gestured toward the bikers scattered throughout the room. "You taught this old woman that it's never too late to change. Lena squeezed her hand. You were just trying to protect me. I understand. Still, I was wrong, and I'm grateful you didn't listen to me. That evening, after the celebration ended, Lena walked home. She still walked everywhere. Even though her car was fixed, she liked the quiet, the time to think. As she passed a different gas station, she saw a young man sitting on the curb, Latino, maybe 22, head in his hands. Lena stopped. Hey, you okay? The young man looked up, eyes red. My car broke down. I don't have money for a tow. I'm supposed to pick up my son from daycare in 20 minutes. Lena opened her purse and pulled out $50. She handed it to him. What? No, I can't. Yes, you can, Lena said. Get your car towed. Get your son. The young man stared at the money like it was a miracle. I don't even know you. You don't have to. Lena pulled out an Ivy's legacy card and handed it to him. When you're back on your feet, help someone else. Pass it on. And if you ever need more help, call that number. Tears streamed down his face. Thank you. I won't forget this. Lena smiled. I know you won't. She walked away, her heart full. A year ago, she had been the one with nothing, the one who needed help. Now, she was the one giving it. The cycle continued. Kindness creates more kindness. And somewhere Lena knew Ivy was watching, smiling, proud. Lena's story started with $8 and a choice. She could have walked away. She could have listened to the fear. But she did not. She saw a human being who needed help, and she helped. That one choice changed everything. Here's my question for you. Who can you help today? Who needs your $8, your time, your kindness? And who have you judged unfairly? What person have you walked past because of how they looked? Lena looked past the leather vest and tattoos. She saw a person, not a stereotype. How many times have we judged too quickly? If this story moved you, don't just watch. Act. Help someone this week. Leave a comment. Tell me about a time kindness changed your life. If you believe in second chances and communities lifting each other up, hit that like button. Subscribe. Share this story, because the more people who see this, the more kindness spreads. Now, go be someone's Lena.